Hello, you tired little peeps. It's that time once again. So let's snuggle up fast because tonight we're traveling. Back in time to walk the dusty roads with the legions, examining the rigorous training, the coins they earned, and the quiet rhythm of camp life that defined a soldier's existence. So if you are new to the channel or returning, liking the video significantly helps. Also, please let me know where you're listening in from and what time it is for you. Now get comfortable, and let's begin. The year is vague, perhaps under the reign of Trajan or Hadrian, a time when the borders were relatively stable, and the life of a soldier was less about constant, frantic warfare and more about the steady, grinding maintenance of an empire. We begin not on a battlefield, nor amidst the chaos of a siege, but in the quiet, sun-drenched silence of a rural village in Italy, or perhaps a provincial town in southern Gaul. Here, the pace of life is dictated by the seasons, by the harvest, by the slow turning of the sun across the sky. But for one young man, a Roman citizen by birth, the rhythm of the farm has become too predictable, perhaps too uncertain in its yields. He seeks something solid. He seeks the structure of the legion. Imagine the dust on his sandals as he walks toward the recruitment station. It is a long walk, steady and unhurried. The air is filled with the sound of cicadas, a constant, droning hum that seems to vibrate against the heat of the afternoon. He carries very little with him. A small sack with some bread, perhaps a piece of cheese wrapped in cloth, and the tunic on his back. He is leaving behind the chaotic freedom of civilian life for the absolute, unyielding order of military service. He is walking toward a life where every hour will be accounted for, where every meal will be scheduled, and where his very movements will be synchronized with thousands of others. He arrives at the designated place for the delectus, the levee. It is likely a municipal building, a basilica, or a dedicated office in a larger city. The stone of the building is cool compared to the heat outside. The shadows are long and stark. There is a smell here of old parchment, of wax, of ink, and of sweating bodies standing in lines. He is not alone. There are others here, young men from various walks of life, all standing in a queue that moves with glacial slowness. This is the first lesson of the army, waiting. They wait for hours. There is no conversation, just the shuffling of feet on the stone floor, the occasional cough, the scratching of a scribe's stylus on a wax tablet somewhere in the distance. The recruit leans against a pillar, feeling the roughness of the stone against his shoulder. He watches the dust motes dancing in a shaft of light that cuts through the high windows. He focuses on his breathing, slow and steady, in and out. The boredom is palpable, a heavy blanket that settles over the room, suppressing excitement, suppressing anxiety. It is just a process, a bureaucratic machine grinding into motion. Finally, he is called forward for the probatio, the preliminary examination. This is not a test of strength, not yet. This is a test of identity and legal standing. He steps up to a heavy wooden desk. Behind it sits a recruitment officer, a man with a face weathered by years of wind and sun, his eyes reading a scroll without looking up initially. "Name?" the officer asks. His voice is flat, devoid of emotion. It is a voice that has asked this question 10,000 times. The recruit gives his name. The scribe next to the officer dips a reed pen into an ink pot. The sound of the pen scratching against the papyrus is loud in the quiet room. Scritch, scratch, pause, scritch, scratch. "Status?" the officer asks. "Citizen," the recruit replies. He might produce a document, a tessera, or bring forth a witness to vouch for him. This is the most crucial filter. Only a Roman citizen may join the legions. If he were a non-citizen, He would be sent to the auxiliaries, to a different life, a different pay scale. But he is a citizen. His father was a citizen. The scribe notes this down. The verification process is slow. The officer checks lists, compares names. There is a rustling of paper, the unrolling of scrolls. The recruit stands perfectly still, his hands hanging loosely by his sides. He is being converted from a person into a statistic, a unit of manpower. Father's name? Tribe? Place of origin? The questions continue, monotonous and thorough. They need to ensure he is not a runaway slave, for enlisting a slave is a capital offense. They need to ensure he is not a criminal fleeing justice. The bureaucracy of Rome is vast and interconnected. They check his background with a diligence that borders on the obsessive. The recruit waits as they discuss a minor discrepancy in the spelling of his village's name. They talk amongst themselves in low murmurs, ignoring him. He looks at the ink drying on the papyrus. He looks at the weave of the officer's tunic. He waits. Once the legalities are settled, the physical examination begins. He is directed to another area of the room, or perhaps a courtyard. Here, a medical officer, a medicus, awaits. The recruit must strip off his tunic. The air is slightly cooler on his skin. He stands exposed, subjected to the critical, impersonal gaze of the doctor. The doctor does not look at him as a human being, but as a draft animal to be assessed for utility. He walks around the recruit slowly. He checks the eyes. Rome needs soldiers who can see signals from a distance, who can spot movement on a horizon. The doctor holds up fingers, points to objects. He peers into the recruit's pupils. Silence reigns, broken only by the doctor's breathing and the distant noise of the city outside. Then, the height. The standard requirement is often cited as 6 Roman feet, or roughly 5 feet and 10 inches in modern measurements. For the first cohort, those slightly shorter men are accepted for other cohorts. They measure him against a marked post. He stands tall, stretching his spine, pressing his heels into the ground. The wood of the post is smooth, polished by the backs of thousands of men before him. He fits the requirement. He is average, sturdy, built for endurance rather than speed. The doctor checks his teeth, for a soldier must be able to chew the hardtack, the grain diet of the legion. He checks his limbs for deformities. He asks the recruit to extend his arms, to clench his fists. He checks for varicose veins, which might hinder long marches. He checks for scars that might indicate a history of brawling or criminal punishment. It is a slow, methodical inspection. The doctor's hands are cool and dry as he presses against the recruit's abdomen, checking for hernias. "Cough," the doctor says. The recruit coughs. The sound echoes slightly. Everything is recorded. His height, his distinguishing marks, a mole on his left shoulder, a small scar on his knee from a childhood fall. These are noted not for his benefit, but for identification. If he deserts, these details will be sent out to the garrisons. If he is killed in battle, these details will help identify the body. He is being catalogued. The probatio continues with an assessment of his trade. "What is your profession?" the officer asks, looking at the notes from the medical exam. "Farmhand," the recruit answers. The officer nods approval. They like farmhands. Men used to hard labor, used to digging, used to the sun, used to taking orders and working in silence. They prefer them over city dwellers, whom they consider soft and prone to debauchery. A blacksmith would be good, a carpenter even better, for the legion builds as much as it fights. But a farmhand is the backbone of the army. The sun has moved across the sky. The shadows have shifted. Hours have passed since he first entered the building. Finally, the officer looks up. He dips his own pen into the ink. He writes a final notation on the recruit's file. "Passed," he says, his voice flat. "You are fit for service." There is no fanfare, no trumpet sound. The recruit simply nods. He is told to gather his things and move to a holding area. He has passed the first hurdle. He is no longer just a farmhand, but he is not yet a soldier. He is a tiro, a recruit. He sits on a bench in the holding area, watching the dust float in the air, waiting for the others to finish. The reality of his decision settles on him slowly, heavy, and calm. He has signed away his freedom for 25 years. He belongs to the emperor now. And the first thing the emperor requires of him is to sit and wait and prepare for the journey to the training grounds. The oath and the coin. The recruit sits on the bench for a long time. The sun moves across the floor, stretching the shadows of the pillars until they touch the opposite wall. Finally, when the group of accepted men has grown to a sufficient number, perhaps 20 or 30 souls gathered from the region, an officer approaches. It is time for the transformation to become official. It is time for the sacramentum. They are led into a small courtyard. In the center stands an altar, simple stone discolored by smoke and time. The air here smells of burnt incense and dust. They are told to stand in lines. The discipline has already begun, even if they do not know how to march yet. They shuffle into rows, shoulder to shoulder. The recruit can smell the sweat of the man next to him, the faint scent of garlic and wool. The officer stands before them. He does not shout. He speaks with the quiet authority of stone. He explains the oath. It is not merely a promise. It is a religious binding. By swearing this, they are removing themselves from the protection of civil law and placing themselves under the power of the military. They are giving the emperor the right to their bodies, their labor, and their lives. One man, chosen at random, or perhaps for his clear voice, steps forward to recite the oath first. The others will listen and then affirm it. The words hang heavy in the still air. "I swear that I will obey the emperor," the voice says, echoing slightly off the courtyard walls. "That I will never desert the standard. That I will not shrink from death on behalf of the Roman state. That I will do everything commanded of me by the emperor and my officers." The recruit listens to each phrase. He repeats them in his mind. Obey, never desert, do everything commanded. It is a surrender of the self. When the leader finishes, the officer moves down the line. Each man must answer. "Item in me," the recruit says when his turn comes. "The same for me." It is done. With those simple words, the farmhand is gone. He is now a Miles, a soldier in the service of Rome. The link to his past life is severed, replaced by a steel chain of duty that will last for 25 years. Next comes the signaculum. It is a small lead disc, a seal, hung on a leather thong. The officer hands it to him. The recruit takes it. The lead is cool and heavy in his palm. It bears his name and the sign of his new unit. He places it around his neck. The leather is stiff and scratches slightly against his skin. This is his identification. It is what marks him as property of the Legion. He will wear it every day, under his tunic, against his chest, until the day he is discharged or the day he dies. It warms slowly against his body heat, becoming a part of him. Then there is a moment of tangible reward, the viaticum, the travel money. Before they march to their assigned legion, each recruit is given 3 gold coins, 3 auri. This is 75 denarii. For a farmhand who might have bartered in grain and copper his whole life, the weight of gold in his hand is shocking. He holds the coins. They are small, dense, and yellow like the sun. He runs his thumb over the profile of the emperor stamped on the face. The metal is smooth. This is more money than he has ever held at one time. It represents his value to the empire. It is a sign of the contract. He ties the coins carefully into a scrap of cloth and tucks them deep into his belt. He checks the knot once, twice. The weight at his waist is a constant reminder of his new status. The sun is setting now. They will not leave today. They sleep in a temporary barracks on straw pallets that rustle when they move. The room is filled with the sound of sleeping men, the deep breathing, the snoring, the shifting of bodies seeking comfort on the hard floor. The recruit stares up at the darkened ceiling. He touches the lead disc at his throat. He touches the coins at his waist. He closes his eyes and drifts into a dreamless sleep. Morning comes before the sun. A sharp voice wakes them. It is still gray outside, the air cool and damp with dew. They eat a quick breakfast of porridge, warm and tasteless, served from a communal pot. Then, they gather their meager belongings. It is time to move. They are not yet a legion. They are a ragtag group of civilians walking in a group. They do not march in step yet. That will come later. They walk out of the city gates just as the first rays of light hit the rooftops. The road stretches out before them, the famous Roman road, straight as an arrow, cutting through the landscape with relentless efficiency. The paving stones are large polygonal blocks of basalt or limestone, fitted together so tightly that a knife blade could not slide between them. The recruit looks down at his feet. His sandals slap against the stone. Slap, slap, slap. A rhythm begins to form. They walk, mile after mile. The scenery changes slowly, almost imperceptibly. Fields of wheat give way to olive groves. Olive groves give way to vineyards. The road remains constant. It rises gently over hills and descends into valleys, but it never deviates, never curves unnecessarily. It is a monument to will. The recruit watches the back of the man in front of him. He watches the sway of the man's tunic, the movement of his shoulders. He counts his own steps. 100, 200, 500. The sun climbs higher, warming the back of his neck. Sweat begins to trickle down his spine. The lead seal feels heavy. They stop for water at a way station. The water is cool, drawn from a deep well. They drink in silence, savoring the liquid. Then they walk again. The silence of the group is profound. They are strangers bound together by an oath, walking into an unknown future. There is no need for chatter. The walking takes all their energy. The sound of the world is reduced to the crunch of sandals on gravel at the road's edge, the buzz of insects, and the wind in the cypress trees that line the route. It is a hypnotic sound. The repetitive motion of walking puts the mind into a trance. Left foot, right foot. Stone, dust, stone. Hours pass. The sun passes its zenith and begins to lower. The shadows lengthen again, stretching out ahead of them on the road. And then, finally, in the distance, they see it. It is not a city. It is a geometric shape imposed on the landscape. A perfect rectangle of defensive walls, earthen ramparts topped with a palisade of wooden stakes. Watchtowers rise at regular intervals. Smoke curls lazily from within the perimeter. It is the fortress, the castra, the permanent base of the legion. It sits massive and silent in the fading light. It looks impenetrable, a world unto itself. The red tile roofs of the internal buildings are visible over the walls. The standards of the legion flutter sluggishly on the breeze near the gatehouse. As they approach, the recruit sees the sentries on duty. They stand motionless, statues in armor, their shields resting by their sides. They watch the recruits approach with indifferent eyes. They have seen thousands of young men walk up this road. The group halts before the main gate. the Porta Praetoria. The gate is massive, flanked by 2 stone towers. The wood of the doors is thick, reinforced with iron bands. Above the archway, an inscription carved into the stone proclaims the name of the legion and the emperor who built it. The recruit stands in the shadow of the gate. He feels small. The walls loom over him. The smell here is different. It smells of wood smoke, of roasting meat, of leather, of horse manure, and of iron. It is the smell of an army at rest. An officer steps out from the gatehouse. He holds a scroll. He looks over the group of tired, dusty men. He does not smile. He simply nods, as if confirming a delivery of grain or timber. "Welcome to the Legion," he says. His voice is dry. "Get inside. Your real life begins now." The recruit steps forward, crossing the threshold, passing from the world of the chaotic outside into the ordered grid of the camp. The heavy wooden gates creak as they begin to close behind him, shutting out the setting sun. The grid and the barracks. The heavy gates thud shut, sealing out the twilight. Inside the fortress, the light is different. It comes from torches mounted on wooden posts, flickering in the evening breeze, casting long, dancing shadows against the whitewashed walls of the buildings. The silence of the road is replaced by a low, constant murmur. It is the sound of 5,000 men living, eating, and working within a confined space. It is a hum of activity that never truly ceases. The recruit stands on the Via Praetoria, the main street that runs from the front gate straight to the heart of the camp. The road is wide, paved with the same meticulous care as the highway they just left. On either side, long rows of buildings stretch out into the darkness. They are identical, long, low structures with tiled roofs and wooden verandas. Every angle is a right angle. Every line is straight. The Roman obsession with order is manifest here in wood and stone. An officer, an optio, approaches the group. He carries a long staff, the symbol of his office, with a knob on the end. He is the second in command of a century, the man who keeps the lists, who checks the details, who ensures the orders of the centurion are carried out. He looks at the recruits with a mixture of boredom and scrutiny. He holds a wax tablet. "Follow," he says. They walk down the wide avenue. The recruit tries to take it all in. To his left, he sees the granaries, massive stone buildings with raised floors to keep the damp and vermin away from the precious grain. The smell of toasted wheat and baking bread drifts from the ovens nearby. It is a comforting, earthy smell. To his right, he sees the hospital, the valetudinarium, a quiet square building where the sick and injured are tended. They pass soldiers going about their evening duties, men in undress tunics carrying buckets of water, men polishing armor on benches, men sitting in small groups playing dice, the sharp clack-clack of the bones echoing on the paving stones. No one pays much attention to the recruits. They are fresh meat, unblooded, invisible until they prove otherwise. The optio leads them deeper into the grid. They turn left onto the Via Principalis, the main cross street. Then another turn into a narrower alleyway between the long barracks blocks. The space here is tighter. The smell is stronger, a mix of leather oil, unwashed wool, and latrines. They stop in front of one of the long buildings. This is a barracks block, the home of a century, 80 men. The building is divided into 10 identical sections. Each section is for a contubernium, a tent party of 8 men. This will be the recruit's family for the next 25 years. These 7 other men will be his brothers, his cooks, his nurses, and his shield mates. "Room 6, the optio says, pointing to a door. "You are replacements. Get inside." The recruit steps onto the wooden veranda and pushes open the door. The room inside is dim. It is divided into 2 parts. The front room is the arma, the equipment room. It smells of grease and iron. Hooks on the walls hold military belts, helmets, and packs. Piles of firewood are stacked in the corner. A small hearth glows with dying embers. He steps through to the back room, the papilio. This is the sleeping quarter. It is small, perhaps 15 feet square. There are bunks arranged against the walls. The air is warm and stuffy. Several men are already there. They look up as the recruit enters. They are veterans. Their faces are lined, their skin tanned to the color of old leather. One is mending a tunic with a bone needle. Another is sharpening a dagger on a whetstone, the rhythmic shh sound filling the small space. They look at the recruit, assessing him. There is no hostility, just a weary acceptance. Another body to fill the line, another mouth to feed. New blood, the man with the needle says. He doesn't smile, but he gestures to an empty bunk. Put your kit there. Don't touch anyone else's gear. The recruit nods. He places his small sack on the rough wool blanket. The mattress is stuffed with straw. He can hear it crunch as he presses his hand against it. It is not soft, but it is dry. Before he can settle, the optio returns. It is time for the initial issue. They are marched to the fabrique, the workshops and stores. Here, the sheer scale of the Legion's logistics becomes apparent. Rows of shelves reach the ceiling, stacked with tunics, cloaks, and boots. The quartermaster looks him over. He tosses a bundle at the recruit. Tunic, red wool, 1. The recruit catches it. The wool is coarse, heavy, and smells of dye. Sagum, cloak, 1. A heavy rectangular cloak, thick and felted to repel rain. This will be his blanket, his raincoat, his tent, and his camouflage. Balteus, belt, 1. The military belt. It is wide leather, studded with metal plates, with an apron of leather strips that hang down the front to protect the groin. It jingles when he moves. The cingulum. To wear this belt is to be a soldier. To have it taken away is the ultimate shame. And finally, the boots, the caligae. They are not simple shoes. They are complex pieces of engineering. Open work leather straps that lace up the ankle, designed to let air in and water out, so the foot does not rot on long marches. But the most important part is the sole. The recruit turns the boot over. The sole is thick, multiple layers of leather hammered together, and driven into the sole are iron hobnails, dozens of them, sharp conical spikes of iron. Put them on, the quartermaster orders. The recruit sits on a bench. He pulls the stiff leather onto his feet. He laces the straps, feeling them tighten around his ankles. He stands up. Crunch. The iron nails bite into the wooden floor. He takes a step. Crunch. He feels taller. The grip is absolute. These boots are made for gripping mud, for stomping on sod, for holding the line against a charging enemy. But they are also noisy. A legion on the march sounds like a grinding millstone. He walks back to the barracks. The sound of his own feet has changed. He is no longer walking on soft sandals. He is clattering. He sounds like the other soldiers now. Clack, clack, clack. Back in the contubernium, the evening meal is being prepared. The Legion does not usually have a central mess hall. The men cook for themselves, in their small groups. The veterans have a pot boiling on the hearth in the arma. It is a stew of lentils, bacon, and garlic. The smell is thick and savory, cutting through the stale air of the room. You know how to grind grain? One of the veterans asks, handing the recruit a small stone hand mill. Yes, the recruit says. He is a farmhand after all. Good. Get to work. We need bread for tomorrow. The recruit sits on the floor. He pours the hard wheat grains into the hole in the top stone. He grips the wooden handle. He begins to turn. Grind, grind, grind. The friction of the stone, the dust of the flour rising in the air, the heat of the fire. His arm begins to ache, but he keeps a steady rhythm. The veterans talk amongst themselves. They talk of guard duty rosters, of the quality of the wine in the local settlement, of a rumor that the legate is being replaced. They speak in a shorthand, a slang of the camp that the recruit does not yet understand. He listens, the grinding stone providing a hypnotic bass line to their conversation. Night falls completely. The trumpet sounds from the center of the camp. Tuba, a long, mournful note that signals the end of the day. The lights in the camp are extinguished, save for the watchfires on the walls and the lamps in the officers' quarters. In the papilio, the men strip off their armor and tunics. They wrap themselves in their cloaks. The recruit lies on his bunk. The straw pricks through the wool. The room is dark, lit only by the dying glow from the front room. He hears the breathing of 7 other men. He smells the oil on their boots, the sweat of their day. He is tired, bone tired, but his mind is active. He runs his hand over the leather belt hanging on the peg above his head. He touches the iron nails on his boots sitting on the floor. He is inside the machine now. The grid of the camp surrounds him, walls within walls, a fortress of order in a chaotic world. Outside, the boots of the night watch patrol the streets. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sound is rhythmic, reassuring. The Empire is awake, watching. The recruit closes his eyes, the sound of the grinding stone still echoing in his ears, and lets the darkness take him. The rhythm of the road. The morning arrives not with the sun, but with a sound. The buccina, a curved brass horn, blares through the darkness. It is a harsh, jarring sound that cuts through dreams and drags the men from their sleep. It is the beginning of the first watch of the day. In the cramped papilio, the recruit wakes with a start. The air is cold. The warmth of the bodies in the small room dissipates quickly as blankets are thrown off. There is no time for grogginess. The veterans are already moving, swinging their legs out of the bunks, their feet finding the floor with practiced ease. The recruit mimics them. He splashes cold water on his face from a basin, the shock of it tightening his skin. He pulls on his red tunic, shivering slightly until the wool settles against him. He wraps the heavy leather belt around his waist, tightening the buckle until it digs slightly into his stomach. The jingling of the apron strips is the morning's first music. They grab their shields, not the heavy plywood scutum of war yet, but wicker training shields, woven like baskets, but weighted with lead to be twice as heavy as the real thing. They grab wooden swords, rudies, also weighted with lead. Everything in training is heavier, harder, and more brutal than reality, so that battle, when it comes, will feel like a relief. They muster on the Via Principalis. The sky is turning a pale, bruised purple in the east. The stars are fading. The centurion walks down the line. He is a man carved from oak, his face a map of campaigns fought in lands the recruit has only heard of in stories. He carries a vine staff, the vitis. It is a symbol of office, but also a tool of correction. He taps it against his leg. Thwack, thwack. Today, the centurion says, his voice gravel and low. You learn to walk. It sounds simple. The recruit has walked his whole life. He walked here from his village, but he quickly learns that he knows nothing of walking. Not like a legionary. They are marched out of the camp gates, past the sleepy sentries, to the campus, the training field. It is a vast, flat expanse of beaten earth, stripped of grass by generations of boots. The dust here is fine and powdery. It hangs in the air, even before they begin to move. The training begins with the stance, feet apart, weight balanced, eyes forward. They stand for what feels like an hour, just standing, while the optio corrects their posture, shoulders back, chin up, shield arm locked. The sun breaks the horizon, sending long golden rays across the dust. Forward, the command comes. They step off with the left foot, always the left. It is a superstition, an omen of good luck, but it is also a uniform standard. Thousands of men must move as one organism. If one starts with the right, the organism stumbles. Sinister, dexter, sinister, dexter, left, right, left, right. They do not just walk, they march. The military step, the militaris gratis. The requirement is exact, 20 Roman miles in 5 summer hours. That is not a stroll. It is a rapid driving pace. They must maintain formation. They must keep the line straight. They must not lag, and they must not run. The recruit focuses on the back of the neck of the man in front of him. He watches the bobbing of the head, the sway of the shoulders. He matches his rhythm. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The iron hobnails bite into the hard earth of the training field. The sound is deafening, a continuous roar of metal on stone and dirt. The sun climbs higher. The morning chill evaporates, replaced by a steady, baking heat. Sweat begins to trickle down the recruit's forehead. It stings his eyes. He cannot wipe it away. His hands are occupied with the heavy wicker shield and the wooden sword. The shield drags on his arm. The lead weights inside it seem to grow heavier with every step. His shoulder burns. "Keep the line," the centurion barks. The vine staff lashes out, striking the legs of a man who has drifted inches out of formation. The crack is sharp. The man does not cry out. He simply skips back into place. They walk in circles. They walk in squares. They walk back and forth across the dusty plain. The dust rises in choking clouds. It coats their tongues, their eyelashes, the inside of their noses. They breathe in the earth. The recruit's throat is dry like parchment. He thinks of the well water, cool and clear, but he pushes the thought away. There is no water yet. After hours of the military step, the command changes. Full step, plenus gratis. Now the pace increases. 24 Roman miles in 5 hours. This is near the limit of walking speed. It is a forced march pace. The legs must stretch further. The breathing becomes labored. The heart hammers against the ribs. The heavy boots feel like anchors. Left, right, left, right. The rhythm becomes everything. It is a trance. If you think about the pain in your feet, you will stop. If you think about the burning in your lungs, you will falter. You must become the rhythm. The recruit's mind goes blank. He becomes a machine of muscle and bone. He listens to the cadence called out by the officers. He listens to the collective breath of the century. They are suffering together. This shared struggle is the forge that welds them together. Around noon, they are halted. The silence that follows the cessation of the marching is ringing and absolute. The dust settles slowly around them. They are allowed to drink. The water from the skins is warm and tastes of leather, but it is the sweetest thing the recruit has ever tasted. He rinses the grit from his mouth. He looks at his feet. The leather straps have rubbed raw spots on his ankles. Blisters are forming on his heels. Friction burns from the stiff new leather. This is the breaking in period. His feet will bleed, then they will scab, and finally they will callous. In a month, his soles will be as hard as the hooves of a mule. But today, they just hurt. They do not rest for long. The afternoon is for weapons drill. But even that is rhythmic. They stand before wooden posts, palace sunk deep into the ground. "Strike!" The recruit thrusts the heavy wooden sword. He aims for the imaginary face, the imaginary gut. "Recover!" He pulls back behind the shield. "Strike! Recover!" It is slow. It is repetitive. It is boring. There is no glory in stabbing a wooden post 6 feet high. But the centurion is watching the angle of the arm, the position of the feet. "Don't slash!" he yells. "Roman stab. A slash cuts the skin. A stab kills the man. 2 inches, that's all you need. 2 inches of steel in the gut." The recruit thrusts again. His arm is trembling with fatigue. The wooden sword feels like it weighs 100 pounds, but he keeps going. Thud. The wood hits the wood. Thud. By the time the sun begins to dip towards the western hills, the recruit can barely lift his arms. His legs feel like lead. His tunic is soaked through with sweat. Dark red patches staining the wool. They form up again to march back to the fortress. The walk back is slower, but the discipline holds. They are too tired to be disorderly. They pass through the gates as the evening watch is set. The smells of the camp, smoke and stew, are welcoming now. They are the smells of home. The recruit stumbles into the barracks. He drops the heavy shield in the corner. He unbuckles the belt, and the relief is physical, a sudden expansion of his ribs. He sits on his bunk and unlaces his boots. His feet are red, swollen, and angry. One of the veterans tosses him a small pot of tallow grease. "Rub it on," he says. "Keeps the skin from cracking." The recruit obeys. The grease is soothing. He massages his aching arches. He is too tired to talk. He eats his ration of bread and lentils mechanically, his hand moving from bowl to mouth without thought. The food refills the energy he burned on the dust of the campus. He lies back on the straw. The day is done. One day. He has thousands more ahead of him. But he survived this one. He closes his eyes, and even in the stillness of the room, he can still feel the phantom rhythm in his legs. Left, right, left, right. The march continues in his sleep, carrying him into the dark, dreamless void of exhaustion. The pickaxe and the basket. The days turn into weeks. The blisters on the recruit's feet have hardened into calluses, thick pads of skin that no longer feel the bite of the leather straps. The morning trumpet is no longer a shock, but a familiar summons. But today, the training field is not their destination. Today, they do not march to the wooden posts. Today, they are marched to the armamentarium, the armory. But they are not given swords. They are given tools. The centurion stands before a pile of iron and wood. He points to an implement that looks like a cruel hybrid of a weapon and a farming tool. It is the dolabra, a heavy pickaxe. On one side, a stout, curved pick for breaking hard ground. On the other, a broad axe blade for cutting roots and chopping timber. "The sword protects your life," the centurion says, lifting one of the heavy tools with one hand. "But this saves the army. A legion that cannot dig is a legion that will die." The recruit takes a dolabra. It is heavy, top-heavy with the weight of the iron head. The wooden handle is smooth, polished by the grip of previous owners. He also receives a corbis, a woven wicker basket, and a rutrum, a shovel. They march out of the gate, past the training fields, to a stretch of uneven, scrubby ground. The command is given. They are to construct a marching camp, not a permanent fortress, but the temporary defensive square that a legion builds every single night on campaign, no matter how tired they are, no matter the weather. The work begins. It is less frantic than the marching, but it is relentless. The recruit swings the dolabra, thwack. The pick bites into the dry earth. He levers the handle back, breaking up the clods of soil. Thwack. Again and again. The rhythm of the legion changes. It is no longer the crunch-crunch of boots, but the dull thud-thud of iron on earth. The air fills with the smell of broken soil, a damp, mineral scent that is ancient and primitive. It smells of roots and worms and clay. The recruit works in a team. He loosens the earth. His comrade shovels it into the wicker basket. A third man hoists the basket onto his shoulder and carries it a few paces back to dump it. They are digging the fossa, the ditch. It is not just a hole. It is a piece of geometry. The walls must slope at a precise angle. The bottom must be a specific width. The centurion walks along the lip of the growing trench with a measuring rod, a decimpeda. He checks the depth. He checks the width. Too shallow. He grunts at one group. Dig deeper. If the enemy can jump it, you are dead. The recruit wipes sweat from his eyes with the back of his dirty hand. His tunic is stained brown with dust. His shoulders ache with a dull, throbbing pain different from the sharp burn of the marching. This is the ache of leverage, of lifting, of the slow grind of manual labor. As they dig, they build the agger, the rampart. The earth from the ditch is not thrown away. It is piled carefully behind the ditch to form a wall. They pack it down, stamping on it with their hobnailed boots. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The wall rises, foot by foot. Then comes the wood. Each soldier carries 2 suds, thick wooden stakes, sharpened at both ends, on the march. Today they use practice stakes. They drive them into the top of the earthen wall. They lash them together with rope. The result is a palisade, a jagged fence of wood that crowns the wall of earth. For ours, the only world is the ditch. The recruit looks at the strata of the soil. The topsoil is dark and loose. Below that, a layer of reddish clay, sticky and heavy. Below that, gravel and rock. He learns the geology of the land through the vibration of the pickaxe handle. He enters a meditative state. Lift, swing, strike, pull. It is boring work. It is back-breaking work. But there is a satisfaction in it. He looks down the line. The ditch stretches out, straight as a ruler. The rampart rises, solid and uniform. They are imposing order on the chaos of nature. They are carving a safe space out of the wilderness. By late afternoon, the practice camp is complete, a perfect square of safety. The centurion nods. He does not offer praise, but his lack of criticism is praise enough. Good, he says. Now fill it in. The recruit pauses. Fill it in? But they just built it. We do not leave fortifications for the enemy to use, the centurion says simply. Fill it in. And so, the process reverses. The stakes are pulled up. The earth is shoveled back into the ditch. The ground is leveled. It is the ultimate lesson in futility and discipline. The task itself matters less than the obedience and the physical conditioning. They must be willing to build and destroy at a word. The sun sets as they finish leveling the ground. They are covered in dirt from head to toe. They look more like miners than soldiers. They march back to the fortress in the twilight, their tools clanking softly against their sides. Back at the barracks, the work is not over. The tools must be cleaned. Iron rusts. Rust is a sign of laziness. The recruit sits on the bench outside his room. He takes a rag and a pot of oil. He wipes the blade of the delabra until it shines in the torchlight. He cleans the mud from the shovel. He picks the dirt out of the weave of the basket. His hands are rough. He notices a new blister on his palm, just below the thumb, from the handle of the pick. He presses it gently. It is a badge of his labor. He eats his evening meal with a ravenous hunger. The simple porridge tastes like a feast. His body feels heavy, pulled down by gravity, anchored to the earth he spent the day moving. Later, lying in his bunk, He closes his eyes and sees the dark earth. He feels the phantom weight of the basket on his shoulder. He realizes that the Legion is not just a sword, it is a shovel. It is a machine that reshapes the world, one basket of dirt at a time, and he is a cog in that machine, turning slowly, reliably, in the dark. The camp settles into silence. The recruit sleeps, his breathing deep and slow, grounded in the heavy, comforting exhaustion of honest work. The watch in the night. The sun has long since vanished behind the western hills. The colors of the world have drained away, leaving only shades of gray and black. The camp is asleep, a sprawling beast of timber and stone, breathing softly in the darkness. But for the recruit, tonight is not for sleeping. Tonight, his name has appeared on the tessera, the duty roster. Tonight, he stands the watch. The Roman night is divided into 4 watches, or vigiliae, each lasting about 3 hours, depending on the season. The first watch begins at sunset. The 4th ends at dawn. The recruit has been assigned the 3rd watch, the deepest, darkest part of the night, from midnight until 3 in the morning. This is the dead watch, when the world is most silent, and the pull of sleep is a physical weight on the eyelids. He wakes before his shift begins. A fellow soldier from the 2nd watch shakes his shoulder gently. "Time," he whispers. The recruit rises. The barracks room is warm, filled with the snoring of his tent mates. He moves quietly, careful not to let his hobnails scrape too loudly against the floor. He pulls on his tunic. He wraps his thick wool cloak, the sagum, tight around his shoulders. The nights are cold, even in summer, and standing still chills the bone faster than marching. He buckles his belt, the familiar weight settling on his hips. He takes his helmet, but he does not strap it on yet. The metal is cold against his cheek. He steps out into the alleyway. The air is crisp. The sky is a vast, inverted bowl of obsidian, scattered with the dust of stars. The Milky Way is a bright, jagged scar across the heavens. There is no moon tonight. He walks to the designated meeting point near the ramparts. Other men are gathering there, silent shapes in the gloom. They are the relief force. The Optio checks them off. He hands the recruit the tessera, a small clay tablet inscribed with the watchword for the night. Tonight, the word is Jupiter Victor. It is a secret key. Without it, you are an enemy. With it, you are a brother. They march up the wooden steps to the walkway of the rampart. The wood creaks softly under their boots. Below them, the ditch is a black abyss. Beyond that, the wilderness stretches out, formless and unknown. The recruit relieves the sentry on duty. The man looks tired, his eyes red-rimmed. He nods, whispers, "Jupiter Victor," and hands over the position. He disappears down the steps, eager for his blanket. Now, the recruit is alone. Technically, there are other sentries spaced along the wall, 50 paces apart, but in the dark, they are invisible. He is a solitary point of consciousness in a void. He plants his pilum, his heavy javelin, butt first into the wooden flooring of the rampart. He leans his shield against his knee. He pulls his cloak tighter, and he waits. Guard duty is the ultimate test of patience. There is nothing to do. You cannot read. You cannot talk. You cannot sit. You must stand, and you must look. He scans the horizon. At first, his eyes play tricks on him. A bush waving in the wind looks like a crouching man. A shadow cast by a cloud looks like an approaching army. His heart jumps, thudding in his chest. He grips the pilum. He stares harder. The shape does not move. It is just a bush. He relaxes, letting his breath out in a slow cloud of steam. Time behaves differently on the wall. It stretches. Minutes feel like hours. He counts the stars to keep his mind active. He traces the constellations, the bear, the hunter, the swan. He wonders if his family back home is looking at the same stars. The thought is fleeting. Home feels like a lifetime ago, a dream from another existence. He listens. The night is not truly silent. It has a texture. He hears the wind sighing through the palisade stakes. Whoosh, huss. He hears the distant hoot of an owl. He hears the rustle of dry grass. He hears the rhythmic clack-clack of the mounted patrol riding the perimeter outside the ditch, checking the outer defenses. His legs begin to ache from standing in one spot. He shifts his weight from left foot to right foot. Left, right. The leather of his boots creaks. The cold seeps up through the soles, into his toes. He wiggles them to keep the blood flowing. Boredom is the real enemy here. The mind wants to drift. It wants to replay memories, to imagine feasts, to dream of soft beds. But a distracted sentry is a dead sentry. The penalty for falling asleep on watch is death. Fustuarium, beaten to death by your own comrades. The fear of it is a cold spike in his gut that keeps him alert. He focuses on the sensory details to stay grounded. The smell of the pitch used to seal the wooden timbers. The smell of the damp earth below. The rough scratch of the wool cloak against his neck. The taste of the stale air. An hour passes. Then 2. The silence is profound. The camp behind him is a grid of shadows. Occasionally, a torch moves down below. An officer making rounds, checking that the sentries are awake. The recruit straightens his back as the light approaches. The officer passes below, looking up. The recruit salutes in the dark. The light moves on. He looks to the east, searching for the first hint of gray, but the sky remains stubbornly black. It is the dead of night. The world feels empty, as if he is the only person left alive on Earth. Then finally, a sound cuts through the stillness. It is the cornu, the horn, sounding from the headquarters. 3 long blasts. It is the signal. The end of the 3rd watch. Relief washes over him, warmer than the cloak. He hears boots on the wooden steps. The next sentry approaches, a fresh man from the 4th watch. Jupiter Victor, the recruit whispers, passing the tablet. Jupiter Victor, the new man replies. The recruit descends the steps. His legs are stiff. He feels lightheaded with fatigue. He walks back to the barracks through the silent streets. The camp is still sleeping. He enters the room. It is warm and smells of safety. He strips off his cloak and hangs it up. He takes off his belt. He does not bother to undress further. He collapses onto his bunk, pulling the blanket up to his chin. The straw mattress feels like a cloud. His body sinks into it. The tension of the watch, the staring, the listening, the waiting, evaporates. He is safe. The wall is guarded by another. The responsibility is past. He closes his eyes. The image of the stars is still burned into his retinas, glowing in the dark behind his eyelids. Within moments, his breathing slows. The rhythm of the camp takes over. He sleeps, deep and heavy, gathering strength for the sun that will rise all too soon. The copper and the silver time in the Legion is measured not just by the rising and setting of the sun, but by the accumulation of dust and the wearing down of leather. Seasons change. The blistering heat of summer gives way to the wet, gray drizzle of autumn. The recruit is no longer a fresh face. His tunic is faded at the shoulders from the sun. His hands are calloused and stained permanently with the grease of weapons and the dirt of the ramparts. He moves with the collective, unconscious coordination of the unit. But today, the routine shifts. There's a different energy in the camp. It is not the frantic energy of an alarm, nor the heavy dread of a punishment drill. It is a hum of anticipation. Today is the stipendium, payday. The Roman soldier is paid 3 times a year. It is a modest sum, theoretically 225 denarii a year, paid in installments of 75. But as the recruit is about to learn, the distance between theory and reality is measured in deductions. The century gathers in the courtyard of the Principia, the headquarters building. It is a vast, colonnaded square with a floor of crushed stone. At the far end stands the Aedes, the shrine of the standards, where the eagle of the legion and the images of the emperor are kept. It is also where the money is kept. The legion's treasury is a hole in the floor of the shrine, a literal underground vault guarded by the gods and the honor of the unit. Tables have been set up in the shade of the colonnade. Behind them sit the clerks, the librari. These are soldiers who fight with the stylus as much as the sword. They have stacks of wax tablets and scrolls before them. They look bored, their fingers stained with ink. Next to them stands the signifer. He is the standard bearer of the century, a man of immense prestige who wears a wolf pelt over his helmet. But today, he is not a warrior. He is a banker. In the Roman army, the standard bearer manages the finances of the men. He holds the purse strings. The recruit waits in line. The waiting is familiar now. He watches the men ahead of him. Some step away looking satisfied, jingling a pouch. Others look resigned. A few look angry, muttering under their breath. "Name?" the clerk asks when the recruit finally reaches the table. He gives it. The clerk runs a finger down a long list on a papyrus scroll. "Ah, yes, here." The signifer opens a strongbox. The glitter of silver is briefly visible. He counts out the coins. 75 silver denarii, a substantial amount. He places them on the table. They shine brightly in the diffused light, but the recruit does not touch them. Not yet. Deductions. The clerk drones, reading from a second list. The mathematics of the legion begin. "For rations," the clerk says. He slides a pile of coins away from the recruit's stack and back into the box. "The legion feeds you, but not for free. The grain, the bacon, the sour wine, it all has a price." "For boots and clothing," the clerk continues. He slides another stack away. The tunic on his back, the boots on his feet, these are effectively rented until paid for. "For the burial club," the clerk adds. A few more coins disappear. This is insurance. If the recruit dies, this fund ensures he will have a proper funeral and a marker, so his ghost does not wander eternally. It is a grim but necessary expense. "For the Saturnalia fund," the clerk says. A small deduction for the end-of-year feast. The pile of silver on the table has shrunk dramatically. It is perhaps half of what it was. The recruit watches the silver vanish with a stoic face. This is the way of things. "Savings," the signifer says. By order of the emperor, half of the remaining surplus must be banked. The Emperor Domitian, or perhaps a later ruler, depending on the exact year, decreed that a soldier could not squander all his pay. He must save. It prevents desertion. A man leaves his money behind if he runs, and it provides a nest egg for retirement. The signifer takes half of the remaining coins and drops them into a separate leather bag marked with the recruit's name. This bag will go back into the vault under the shrine. It is money he owns, but cannot touch. Finally, the signifer pushes the remainder across the rough wood of the table, a handful of denarii and some copper asses for small change. "Take it," he says. The recruit scoops the coins into his palm. They are cool and smooth. It is not a fortune. It is barely enough to buy some extra wine, perhaps a better knife, or to visit the bathhouse in the civilian settlement outside the walls. But it is his. He walks away from the table, counting the coins again. The weight in his pouch is light, but the feeling is heavy with significance. He has been paid by the Empire. He is a professional. He walks back to the barracks. The mood in the room is lighter tonight. The grinding stones are silent. Instead, there is the sound of gambling. A blanket is spread on the floor. Dice are thrown. "Venus!" someone shouts. A winning roll. "Dogs!" Another curses. A losing roll. The recruit sits on his bunk. He polishes one of his silver denarii with his thumb. He looks at the face of the emperor stamped in the metal, the laurel wreath, the stern profile. This little piece of metal is why he marches. It is why he digs. It is why he stands in the dark. He decides not to gamble. He tucks his pouch deep into his kit bag, wrapping it in a spare tunic. He will save it. He thinks of the farm he left behind, of the uncertainty of the harvest. Here, the harvest is small, but it is guaranteed. As long as the Empire stands, the silver will come. The sun sets, casting long shadows across the camp. The noise of the gambling continues, a raucous counterpoint to the usual discipline. For one night, the Legion relaxes. The recruit lies back, listening to the clink of money-changing hands, the laughter, the arguments. It is a human sound, a break in the machine-like existence. He falls asleep dreaming not of glory, but of a small plot of land he might one day buy, with the coins slowly accumulating in the dark vault beneath the standards. A land where he doesn't have to march. But for now, the coins are few, and the road is long. The steam and the stone. The dust of the training field is a persistent enemy. It works its way into everything. It settles in the creases of the skin, under the fingernails, into the scalp. It mixes with the oil of the armor and the sweat of exertion to form a grimy paste that coats the soldier like a second skin. To be a legionary is to be dirty, but to be a Roman is to value cleanliness. And so, in the late afternoon, when the duties are done and the light begins to soften, the recruit, now a soldier, heads to the thermae. The bathhouse. The bathhouse is a marvel of engineering, a temple to water and heat sitting amidst the military grid. Even from the outside, it is distinct. Smoke rises constantly from the furnaces at the rear, where slaves feed wood into the fires that heat the boilers and the air channels beneath the floors. The building is large, stone-walled, with small glass windows set high up to trap the heat. The soldier enters through the main archway. The air inside is instantly different. It is humid, smelling of olive oil, wood smoke, and damp stone. The noise of the camp, the shouting drill instructors, the clanging of metal, is muffled here, replaced by the echoing sound of splashing water and low conversation. He moves first to the apoditerium, the changing room. It is a long hall lined with stone benches and rows of cubbies set into the walls. He finds an empty space. He unbuckles his heavy military belt. The leather is stiff and warm from his body. He lays it down with a clink. He pulls off his tunic, the red wool heavy with the day's sweat. He unlaces his boots, the iron hobnails scraping on the stone floor for the last time today. Naked, he is just a man. The rank, the century, the legion, all stripped away with the uniform. Around him, other men are doing the same. Scars are visible now, jagged white lines on backs and thighs, stories of past campaigns written on the flesh. He moves into the tepidarium, the warm room. The floor here is warm to the touch, heated by the hypocaust system beneath. Hot air from the furnaces circulates through hollow bricks in the walls and pillars under the floor. It is a gentle heat designed to prepare the body. The soldier sits on a marble bench. He breathes in the warm air. He begins to sweat lightly. His muscles, tight from the marching and the digging, begin to loosen. The tension in his shoulders unknots. He stays here for a while, just sitting. There is no rush in the bath. It is a process. He listens to the drip of condensation falling from the vaulted ceiling. Drip, drip, drip. When his skin is flushed and warm, he moves to the caldarium, the hot room. The heat here is intense, a physical weight that presses against the chest. Steam rises from a large communal basin of hot water, the alveus. The air is thick and white. He can barely see the other side of the room. Figures emerge from the mist like ghosts. He steps into the hot water. It stings at first, then soothes. He sinks down until the water reaches his chin. The heat penetrates deep into his bones. He closes his eyes. The water holds him, buoyant and weightless. The pain in his feet, the ache in his back, it all dissolves into the steam. After soaking, he steps out, dripping. It is time for the cleaning. He does not use soap. Soap is for barbarians. He uses oil. He takes a small flask from his kit and pours olive oil onto his palm. He rubs it over his arms, his chest, his legs. The oil mixes with the dirt and sweat. Then he takes the strigil. It is a curved metal tool, like a dull sickle. He presses the edge against his skin and scrapes. Scrape. A line of gray sludge, oil, dead skin, and dirt is lifted away, leaving pink, clean skin behind. Scrape. He works methodically, down the arms, across the chest, down the calves. It is a grooming ritual as old as the city itself. The sound of metal scraping on skin is rhythmic, a soft friction that fills the room. He helps a comrade with his back, and the man does the same for him. The bonds of the messmate extend to the bath. They talk quietly. Not about war, usually. They talk about the food, about the women in the vicus, the civilian settlement outside the walls, about the rumors of a pay raise that never comes. The bathhouse is the news hub of the Legion. Once he is scraped clean, rinsed with warm water, and thoroughly heated, it is time for the final shock. He moves to the frigidarium, the cold room. The air here is sharp. In the center is a pool of cold water. He does not hesitate. To hesitate is to suffer. He takes a breath and plunges in. The cold is a hammer blow. The air is punched from his lungs. His skin tightens instantly, the pores snapping shut, sealing in the cleanliness. He surfaces, gasping, invigorated. His blood is racing. He feels alive, awake, electric. He climbs out, shivering, and grabs a thick linen towel. He rubs himself dry vigorously until his skin glows red. The lethargy of the hot room is gone, replaced by a clean, sharp energy. He dresses slowly. The tunic feels softer now against his clean skin. The belt feels lighter. He laces his boots, but they don't seem to weigh him down as much. He walks back out into the evening air. The sun has set. The camp is cool. He feels renewed. The day's labor has been washed away down the drains of the bathhouse, flowing out into the darkness. For this hour, he is human again. He is a Roman citizen, enjoying the fruits of civilization in the middle of the wilderness. He walks to the barracks, the smell of olive oil lingering on his skin, ready for the evening meal and the sleep that will follow. The cycle continues, but tonight, he sleeps clean. The grain and the grind. The bath has washed away the dirt, but it has awakened a fierce hunger. The soldier returns to his barracks room, the contubernium. The sun has fully set now, and the room is lit by the warm, flickering glow of small oil lamps and the embers of the hearth in the front room. The air is thick with the smell that defines the Roman army more than any other, the smell of toasted grain and garlic. It is time to eat. In the Legion, there are no great mess halls where soldiers sit in rows to be served by cooks. Here, every group of 8 men is a family, and every family cooks for itself. The center of this ritual is a heavy circular object that sits in the corner of the room. The mola manuaria, the hand mill. It consists of 2 round stones, one sitting atop the other. It is simple, ancient, and essential. A legion can march without wine. It can march without meat, but it cannot march without corn. The soldier takes his turn at the mill. The daily ration, the frumentum, has been issued, about 2 pounds of wheat per man. But it is raw grain. It is hard, encased in husks. To become food, it must be worked. He sits on the floor, legs spread around the mill. He pours a handful of the golden grains into the hole in the top stone. He grips the wooden handle that sticks out from the side. Grind. He pushes the handle away. Grind. He pulls it back. The sound is a low, rhythmic growl. Rumble, rumble. Stone crushing seed. It is a monotonous task, one that requires no thought, only steady effort. The flour spills out from the gap between the stones, collecting on a cloth spread underneath. It is coarse, whole wheat flour, rich and heavy. His messmates are busy with other tasks. One is chopping onions and garlic. Lots of garlic. The Romans believe it gives strength and courage and keeps illness at bay. The sharp, pungent aroma fills the small space, stinging the eyes slightly, but promising flavor. Another man is slicing laridum, the cured, fatty bacon that provides the necessary salt and energy for the day's labor. They are making pulse. It is the staple food of the Roman people, older than bread, older than the empire. It is a thick porridge, a pottage of boiled wheat, simmered until it breaks down into a hearty glue. The iron pot hangs over the fire in the arma. The water boils. The soldier sweeps the freshly ground flour into the pot. Plop. It sinks, then rises. He stirs it with a wooden spoon. The steam rises, carrying the scent of the grain. He adds the bacon. He adds the garlic. He adds a pinch of salt from a leather pouch. Now, they wait. The porridge must simmer. It bloops and bubbles softly, a comforting, domestic sound against the backdrop of the military camp. While they wait, they drink. Not fine vintage wine, but posca. The soldier dips his cup into a clay jar. Posca is water mixed with sour wine or vinegar. It sounds unappealing to the uninitiated, but to a soldier, it is life. The vinegar kills bacteria in the water. It cuts the dust in the throat. It is refreshing, sharp, and cheap. He takes a sip. The sourness makes his jaw tingle, but it quenches his thirst better than plain water ever could. Sometimes, if they are on the march or if there is no time for fire, they eat buccellatum, the biscuit. It is twice-baked bread, hard as a rock, dry as a bone. It has to be soaked in stew or wine to be edible. It is the fuel of campaigns. But tonight, in the safety of the fortress, they have the luxury of soft, hot food. Ready? The cook says. They gather around with their wooden bowls. The porridge is ladled out. It is grayish-brown, lumpy, and steaming hot. To a senator in Rome, it might look like peasant slop. To the soldier, it is a feast. He sits on his bunk, the bowl warming his hands. He takes a spoonful. It is dense. The flavor is earthy, salty from the bacon, sharp from the garlic. It sticks to the ribs. It is heavy food for heavy work. They eat in relative silence. There is the scraping of wooden spoons on wooden bowls. Scrape, scrape. There is the sound of chewing. Occasionally, a man sighs with contentment. The food spreads a slow warmth through the belly, a sedative that weighs down the eyelids. The soldier wipes his bowl clean with a small piece of bread, not wasting a single drop. He feels the heaviness of the meal settling in his stomach. The energy spent on the drill field, on the ramparts, in the bath, it is all being replenished. The fire in the front room dies down to glowing red coals. The shadows in the room lengthen. The smell of the food lingers, mixing with the smell of the oil lamps. The daily struggle for survival, the conversion of grain into muscle, is complete for another day. He sets his bowl down. He drinks the last dregs of his posca. His body feels slow, anchored to the bed by the weight of the grain. The rhythm of the grinding stone still echoes faintly in his mind, a lullaby of production. Grind, grind, grind. The day is truly over now. The belly is full, the body is warm, the mind is empty. All that remains is the dark, the oil and the iron. The meal is finished. The wooden bowls are scraped clean and stacked. The fire in the hearth has burned down to a bed of glowing orange coals, casting deep, dancing shadows against the walls of the arma. Outside, the camp has settled into a low hum. But inside the barracks, there is still work to be done. It is a quiet work, a solitary work, but it is the difference between life and death. The soldier sits on his bench. Before him lies his shell, his second skin, the lorica. It is a complex piece of engineering, known to later historians as the segmentata. It is not a single breastplate, but a series of iron strips, curved to fit the torso, held together by internal leather straps and external brass buckles. It is flexible, allowing him to bend and fight, but it is also fragile in its own way. Iron wants to return to the earth. It wants to rust. And the sweat of the soldier, the rain of the march, and the damp of the night are all conspiring to destroy it. He takes a rag, a piece of old tunic reused for this purpose. He dips it into a jar of oil, usually a mixture of olive oil and mineral grit, or perhaps animal fat. The smell is distinctive, rancid, heavy, and metallic. It is the perfume of the barracks. He begins with the shoulder guards. He unbuckles the brass hinges. Click, clack. He lays the strips flat. He rubs the rag over the metal. Rub, rub, rub. He searches for spots of orange, the first sign of rust. If he finds one, he frowns. He takes a piece of pumice stone or sand and scours it away. The sound is a harsh whisper. Scritch, scritch. He must scrub until the metal shines like a mirror. A centurion does not tolerate dull iron. A dirty soldier is a lazy soldier, and a lazy soldier breaks the line. He moves down to the girdle plates, the strips that wrap around his stomach. There are many of them, overlapping like the carapace of a lobster. He cleans under the overlap, where dirt likes to hide. He checks the leather straps that run inside. Are they fraying? Is the leather drying out? If a strap breaks in battle, the armor falls apart. He rubs tallow into the leather to keep it supple. The work is repetitive. It takes time, but there is a peace in it. The soldier knows every dent in his armor, every scratch. He knows which buckle is stiff. He knows which plate sits slightly askew. It is an intimate relationship. This metal stops the spear. This metal turns the blade. He cares for it as he would a child. Next, the galea, the helmet. He holds it in his lap. It is a bowl of iron with a neck guard and cheek pieces. He polishes the brow, the smooth dome that protects his skull. He checks the cheek pieces, moving them back and forth on their hinges. Squeak, squeak. He adds a drop of oil to the hinge. The squeak vanishes. Silence is better. He takes his gladius, the short stabbing sword, out of its scabbard. The blade is short, leaf-shaped or parallel-edged, designed for the close-quarters crush of the shield wall. He inspects the edge. It must be razor-sharp. He runs a whetstone along the blade. Shing, shing. The sound is high and rhythmic, a singing sound. He wipes the blade with an oily rag, leaving a thin film of protection on the steel. He slides it back into the scabbard. Thunk. A satisfying, solid sound. Finally, the scutum, the shield. It is large, rectangular, and curved. It is made of plywood, layers of wood glued together with the grain running in different directions for strength. It is covered in canvas and leather, then painted. The soldier checks the rim. It is bound in bronze to prevent it from being split by a sword blow. He checks the umbo, the iron boss in the center. This is the iron fist of the shield, used to punch the enemy in the face. He polishes the boss until he can see his own distorted reflection in the metal. Around him, his tent mates are doing the same. The room is filled with the soft sounds of maintenance, the rubbing of cloth on metal, the clinking of buckles. The smell of oil thickens the air. No one speaks much. They are all focused on their hands, on the small details. It is a meditation on survival. The Legion is a machine, but it is made of thousands of small parts. If one buckle fails, a man might die. If one man dies, the line might break. So they polish, they oil, they check. When he is satisfied, when every piece of metal gleams in the firelight, he begins to reassemble his kit. He hangs the armor on its wooden stand. He places the helmet on top. He leans the shield against the wall. The equipment looms in the shadows, a silent sentry watching over him while he sleeps. He wipes his hands on a rag, but the gray stain of the metal and oil remains in the creases of his palms. It never really washes off. It is part of him now. He feels a sense of completion. The day's destruction, the wear and tear, has been repaired. The order has been restored. He is ready for tomorrow. Whatever the morning brings, a march, a battle, or just more digging, his gear will not fail him. He blows out the small oil lamp by his bunk. The room plunges into darkness, save for the dying glow of the hearth. The smell of the oil lingers, a sharp, protective scent. He pulls his wool blanket up. The rhythm of the polishing cloth, the rub, 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 fades from his ears, replaced by the slow, steady breathing of the 7 other men in the room. The iron is ready. The man is tired. Sleep comes quickly. The quiet halls of healing. The camp is a place of noise, the shouting of orders, the clang of metal, the tramp of boots. But there is one place within the walls where the noise is forbidden. One place where the chaotic energy of the Legion is filtered into a hushed, reverent silence. This is the valetudinarium, the camp hospital. The soldier walks towards it. It is a massive building, almost as large as the headquarters. It stands apart, buffered from the barracks by wide streets to allow for fresh air and quiet. The entrance is modest, guarded not by a warrior with a spear, but by a capsarius, a medical orderly, wearing a clean, undyed tunic. He steps inside. The change is instant. The air here is cooler. The smell of the camp, the smoke, the sweat, the latrines, is replaced by a complex, medicinal bouquet. It smells of dried sage, of sharp vinegar, of sweet honey, and of burning galbanum. It is a clean, piercing scent that clears the head. The building is designed as a square within a square. A long rectangular corridor runs around the perimeter, flanked by small rooms on either side. These are the wards. The soldier walks down the corridor. His hobnailed boots are loud on the stone, so he walks on his toes, trying to be quiet. The light here is soft, filtering in from the central courtyard. The walls are whitewashed, immaculate, free of the soot that coats the rest of the camp. Cleanliness is the first medicine. He passes an open door. Inside, a medicus, a doctor, is tending to a patient. The doctor is not a rough field surgeon, but a man of science, perhaps a Greek, with delicate hands. He is dressed in fine linen. On a small table beside him sits his kit. The soldier glances at the instruments. They are made of bronze and steel, polished to a shine that rivals the jewelry of a noblewoman. There are probes, thin and elegant. There are scalpels with interchangeable blades. There are bone levers and forceps. They are terrible and beautiful tools, arranged with obsessive precision. The doctor is applying a poultice to a wound, his movements slow and deliberate. There is no rushing here. Healing takes its own time. The soldier continues to the center of the building. Here lies the heart of the hospital, the internal courtyard. It is a garden. In the middle of the fortress of war, there is a sanctuary of nature. But this is not a garden for beauty. It is a garden for use. The plants growing here are the Legion's pharmacy. The soldier recognizes them. There is papaver, the poppy, whose milk brings the deep sleep that banishes pain. There is acalia, yarrow, the soldier's woundwort, used to staunch bleeding. There is fennel, and garlic, and mustard. The sun shines down into the courtyard, warming the stones. A few convalescing soldiers sit on benches, their bandaged limbs resting in the sun. They do not talk much. They watch the bees buzzing among the flowers. Buzz, buzz. It is a sleepy, hypnotic sound. The soldier approaches a station where a sepulcharius, a specialist in ointments, is working. The man is grinding something in a large stone mortar. Grind, crush, grind, crush. The rhythm is slower than the grain mill in the barracks. It is a gentle pulverizing. The smell of crushed rosemary rises into the air. The man adds a dollop of honey from a jar, the amber liquid trailing slowly from the spoon. Honey is the great preserver. It keeps wounds clean. The soldier is here perhaps for a fresh bandage for a blister or some salve for a strained muscle. The orderly attends to him efficiently. He dips his fingers into a pot of cool green ointment. He rubs it onto the soldier's skin. The relief is immediate. The heat of the inflammation is drawn out by the cool herbs. "Rest it," the orderly whispers. 2 days light duty." The soldier nods. He lingers for a moment. He does not want to leave this place. The peace here is seductive. The structure of the hospital, the long, echoing halls, the compartmentalized wards, the central garden, feels like a temple. And in a way, it is. It is a temple to Aesculapius, the god of healing, whose small altar stands in the corner of the courtyard, smelling of incense. He listens to the sounds of the building, the rustle of a linen sheet, the drip of water into a basin, the soft clinking of glass vials, a cough from a distant room. It is a soundscape of recovery. The Roman army understands that a soldier is an investment. He is expensive to train, expensive to feed, and expensive to equip. They do not throw him away easily. The care he receives here is better than what 90% of the people in the empire could hope for. Here, in the valetudinarium, the empire acts as a mother, tending to her bruised children. The soldier stands up. He adjusts his tunic. He walks back down the long corridor, moving from the white, herbal silence back towards the entrance. He steps out the door. The noise of the camp hits him again, a distant shout, the barking of a dog. The smell of smoke returns. He has left the bubble of peace, but the smell of the rosemary salve lingers on his skin, a small reminder of the quiet halls of healing. He rejoins the stream of life on the Via Principalis, his step a little lighter, his pain a little duller, ready to endure the rest of his service. The golden eagle and the smoke. In the exact center of the fortress, at the intersection where the main roads meet, stands the Principia. It is the headquarters, the administrative brain of the Legion. But deep within its colonnaded courtyard lies something more important than orders or maps. It houses the soul of the army. It houses the Aids, the shrine of the standards. The soldier is assigned to guard duty here today. It is a prestigious post. You do not slouch here. You do not lean on your spear. You stand like a statue, polished and perfect, worthy of the gods you protect. The shrine is a high-ceilinged room, open to the front, facing the courtyard. The floor is raised so that one must step up to enter, a physical act of elevation. The soldier stands at the base of the steps. The air here is heavy, not with the smell of sweat or cooking, but with the thick, resinous scent of frankincense. It is a rich, sweet, cloying smell that hangs in the air, coating the back of the throat. Inside the shrine, the light is dim, protected from the harsh sun. But in the gloom, things glitter. There, lined up against the back wall on raised platforms, stand the standards. They are the signa. To an outsider, they might look like poles decorated with metal discs. To a legionary, they are living things. They are the physical embodiment of the Legion's spirit, its genius. The soldier's eyes are drawn to the center. There, on a pole of polished wood, sits the aquila, the eagle. It is made of pure gold, or perhaps silver gilt, glowing with a warm inner light in the semi-darkness. Its wings are raised, as if about to take flight. Its talons grip a thunderbolt. It is small, much smaller than one might expect, but the weight of it is immense. It represents Jupiter, the king of gods, and it represents Rome itself. Men have died to protect this piece of metal. Whole wars have been fought to recover lost ones. The soldier stares at the eagle. It does not move, yet it seems to watch him. The gold catches the light of the oil lamps that burn eternally at its feet. The light flickers on the feathers, making them seem to ripple. Flanking the eagle are the other standards. The imago, a small metal portrait of the emperor. The soldier looks at the face of the man who owns his life. The metal face is calm, stoic, eternal. It does not age. It does not feel pain. It simply exists, demanding obedience. Then there are the signa of the cohorts, poles adorned with silver discs, crescents, and wreaths. And the manus, an open hand made of bronze on top of a pole, symbolizing the oath of loyalty. The room is silent. It is a silence so deep that the soldier can hear the wick of a lamp sputtering. Hiss, pop. He can hear the settling of the stone walls. Every morning, the officers come here to perform the rituals. They do not pray for forgiveness. They pray for contract. Duat des. I give, so that you may give. The soldier watches as the primus pilus, the highest-ranking centurion of the Legion, approaches the altar in front of the shrine. He is an old man, scarred and gray, but he moves with the grace of a priest. He takes a pinch of incense grains from a box. He drops them onto the hot coals of the brazier. Sizzle. A thin plume of white smoke rises, twisting and curling into the still air. It climbs straight up, past the golden eagle, past the silver discs, towards the roof and the sky beyond. The smell intensifies. The smoke is the food of the gods. As it rises, it carries the loyalty of the Legion with it. The centurion pours a libation, a splash of wine from a silver bowl onto the ground. The dark red liquid stains the stone. It is a drink for the earth, a drink for the spirits. Jupiter Optimus Maximus, the centurion murmurs. His voice is low, a rumble that barely disturbs the silence. He recites the ancient formulas. words that have been spoken by soldiers for hundreds of years. The repetition is comforting. It is a chain of words that links this camp in the wilderness to the capital in Rome, and to every other camp on the frontier. The soldier stands rigid. He is part of this ritual. He is the wall that guards the gold. He feels a sense of belonging that goes deeper than the camaraderie of the barracks. This is a connection to the divine order of the universe. The gods are orderly. The stars move in lines. The seasons follow a pattern, and the legion mirrors that order. The ceremony ends. The officers leave. The soldier remains. He watches the smoke dissipate, thinning out until it is invisible, leaving only the scent. He watches the shadows lengthen across the floor as the sun moves over the courtyard. The gold of the eagle dulls as the light fades, turning from brilliant yellow to a deep, brooding bronze. It is a peaceful duty. There is no shouting here, no digging, just the silent communion with the symbols of power. The soldier's mind empties. He enters a trance-like state, focused only on the unblinking eye of the golden bird. The shrine is a reminder that he is not just fighting for pay or for fear of the centurion's vine staff. He is fighting for this, for the continuity of things, for the idea that civilization can be carried on the tip of a spear and planted in the ground, guarded by gold and smoke. As the evening watch approaches, the lamps are refilled by a temple servant. The oil gurgles from the jug. The flames brighten again, pushing back the encroaching night. The eagle glows once more. The soldier shifts his weight ever so slightly, his hobnails making no sound on the dust-free floor. He is a guardian of the silence, watching over the sleeping gods of the legion. The wax and the ink. The soldier sits at a small table in the corner of the barracks. The other men are asleep or playing dice outside. He has carved out a small island of privacy in a life that has none. Before him lies a small, thin slice of wood, no thicker than a veneer. It is birch or alder, pale and smooth. Beside it sits a small pottery jar of ink, atramentum, black as the night sky, made from soot and gum arabic. And in his hand he holds a reed pen, the calamus. He is going to write home. It is a slow process. He is not a scholar. He is a man of the spade and the sword. His fingers, thickened by the handle of the pickaxe, feel clumsy around the delicate reed. He dips the tip into the ink. Dip. He taps it against the rim to remove the excess. Tap. He leans over the wood. He breathes in, holds it, and makes the first mark. The pen scratches against the grain of the wood. Scritch, scratch. The sound is dry and whispery. The ink flows out, shiny and wet, turning matte black as it sinks into the fibers of the wood. "Greetings," he writes, "to my brother." He pauses. He stares at the lamp flame. What does one say across 500 miles of road and sea? He does not write of the terror of the barbarian charges. He does not write of the blood or the screaming. Those things are not for home. Instead, he writes of the small things, the things that matter. "I pray that you are in good health." He scratches slowly. "I am in good health. This is the formula, the anchor of communication. As long as these words are true, everything else is manageable." He dips the pen again. The inkwell is nearly empty. He tilts it to catch the last dregs. "I ask that you send me." He thinks. The winter is coming. The army issue tunics are good, but they are not enough for the biting wind of the frontier. "Pairs of socks," he writes, udons, and 2 pairs of undergarments. It is a humble request, socks, woolen warmth for his toes. It is the universal soldier's plea. History is made of emperors and battles, but the life of a soldier is measured in the thickness of his socks. He watches the ink dry. It takes time in the cool air of the room. He blows on it gently. The breath fogs the wood for a second, then vanishes. He continues, "I have sent you." He checks his pouch. He has saved a few denarii. 3 aurae by the hand of Cassius, the merchant. Sending money is risky. It relies on trust. But the network of the road is built on trust. He imagines the coins traveling, passing from hand to hand, clinking in pouches, crossing mountains, until they reach the rough hands of his father. He describes the local market. The price of grain is high here, he notes. The beer is sour. These are the details that ground him. They are the details that prove he is still alive, still observing, still a part of the human world, not just a cog in the war machine. He makes a mistake. A blob of ink falls onto the wood. He curses softly. He takes a small knife and carefully scrapes the wood, shaving away the stained layer until it is clean again. Scrape, scrape. The wood smells fresh, a scent of the forest amidst the smell of the barracks. He writes for an hour. The letter is not long, perhaps 10 lines. But each word is chosen with labor. Each letter is formed with concentration. His handwriting is not elegant. It is blocky, utilitarian, like the architecture of the camp. But it is legible. "Greet our mother," he finishes. "And our sister." He signs his name. Not just his given name, but his full Roman name, with his century and his legion. He is proud of it. It defines him. He sets the pen down. He waits for the ink to be completely dry. He touches it with the tip of his finger. It is dry. He takes another thin sheet of wood and places it over the first, sandwiching the writing inside to protect it. He ties the 2 sheets together with a thin cord. He melts a drop of wax from the candle onto the knot. Drip. The red wax puddles. He presses his signet ring, or perhaps just his thumb, into the soft wax. The letter is sealed. Now it must travel. He holds the small wooden packet in his hand. It weighs almost nothing, yet it carries his voice. Tomorrow he will give it to a courier or a merchant traveling south. It will go into a leather bag. It will bounce on the back of a mule. It will rattle in the hold of a ship. It will take weeks, perhaps months, to arrive. He might be dead by the time his brother reads it, or his brother might be dead by the time he reads the reply. The time lag is a vast, silent ocean between them. But the act of writing bridges that gap. He places the letter on the shelf above his bunk. It sits there, a promise of a future connection. He feels a strange sense of melancholy, a quiet hollowness in his chest. But it is a good feeling. It is the feeling of remembering who he was before the hobnails and the shield. He blows out the lamp. The smoke from the wick rises, smelling of burnt linen. He lies down in the dark. He thinks of the socks. He imagines his mother knitting them by the fire, the click of the needles, the warmth of the wool. The image is comforting. It wraps around him like a blanket. The soldier sleeps, waiting for the mail that will come with the turning of the seasons. The turning of the seasons. The letter is sent. The reply comes, or it doesn't. But time does not wait for the courier. The life of a legionary is not measured in days, but in seasons. And the seasons on the frontier are harsh, indifferent masters. The recruit is no longer a recruit. He is a principalus, or perhaps just a veteran, a evocatus. He stops counting the days. He counts the winters. Winter in the camp is a time of contraction. The world shrinks. The sprawling landscape of the summer campaigns is buried under a blanket of white snow. The roads become impassable. The legion pulls its head into its shell like a tortoise. The silence of winter is heavy. The snow muffles the sound of boots on the stone. The sharp outlines of the fortress are softened by drifts of white powder. The soldier stands on the rampart, wrapped in layers of wool, his breath forming clouds that freeze in his beard. He watches the gray sky merge with the white earth. There is no horizon. The work changes. It is no longer about digging ditches. It is about survival. They spend days repairing the barracks roofs, replacing tiles cracked by the frost. Tap, tap, tap. The sound is brittle in the freezing air. They chop wood, endless amounts of wood. The forests around the camp are consumed tree by tree to feed the hippocausts, to keep the bathhouse warm, to keep the officers comfortable. The soldier sits by the brazier in the barracks. The heat is a small, precious circle in the cold room. He warms his hands, his joints stiff and aching. The cold has settled into his knees, a dull, permanent reminder of marches in the rain. He rubs them with oil, just as he oils his armor. Flesh and iron, both fighting the rust of time. Then, the thaw. The world turns to mud. The pristine white dissolves into a brown, sucking quagmire. The roads are rivers of sludge. The boots are heavy, caked with clay. The sound of the camp is a squelch. The smell of damp earth returns, pungent and rotting. Spring brings the lustratio, the purification. The weapons are brought out. The shields are repainted. The colors are bright again. The legion shakes off its hibernation. The trumpet calls are sharper, clearer in the warming air. The soldier feels the sap rising, the old energy returning. He is ready to march again. Summer is the anvil. The sun beats down on the helmet, turning the iron into a skillet against the skull. The dust returns, choking and pervasive. The cicadas scream in the trees, a wall of sound that vibrates in the heat. Zzz. They march. They build roads. They repair bridges. The soldier looks at the new recruits. They are young, fresh-faced, their tunics too bright, their boots too clean. He watches them struggle with the heat, wiping sweat from their eyes. He does not mock them. He feels a quiet pity. He knows the road they have to walk. He teaches them the small tricks. How to pack the kit so it doesn't rub. How to drink sparingly to make the water last. How to sleep standing up for a few seconds during a halt. Autumn brings the rain, the relentless gray drizzle that soaks through the cloak and chills the skin. The harvest is brought in. The granaries are filled. The smell of threshing wheat fills the air. The cycle is closing. The soldier watches the leaves turn gold and fall. He counts another year gone. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. The face in the polished metal of the shield is changed. The skin is weathered, etched with deep lines around the eyes from squinting at the sun. The hair is thinning, flecked with gray. The body is harder, leaner, stripped of all unnecessary flesh. But it moves slower in the mornings. He has become part of the camp. He knows every stone in the Via Principalis. He knows the squeak of the gate hinges. He knows the specific draft in the latrines. The camp is his world. The village he came from is a memory so distant, it feels like a story someone else told him. He has seen centurions come and go. He has seen emperors rise and fall. He has heard the news of distant wars, of political upheavals in Rome. But here, on the edge of the empire, the reality is the stone, the wood, and the watch. The legion is a ship that sails through time, and he is one of its timbers. He has held the line. He has kept the watch. He has done his duty. One evening, he stands on the wall, looking out at the sunset. The sky is a bruise of purple and orange. He leans on his pilum. The wood is smooth, worn by the grip of his hand over 2 decades. He feels a strange sensation. It is not fatigue. It is a sense of completion. The missio is coming. The discharge. The thought is both terrifying and sweet. What is a soldier without a legion? What is a man without orders? He looks at his hands. They are shaped by the hilt of the sword. Can they hold a plow again? The sun dips below the horizon. The trumpet sounds the end of the day. Tuba. The long, mournful note echoes across the valley. It signals the end of the light, but for the soldier, it signals the approach of the end of his service. He turns and walks down the steps. His gait is steady, rhythmic, the walk of a man who has walked around the world. He heads to the barracks for his meal. The porridge, the garlic, the sleep, the routine holds him for a little longer, a comforting embrace before he must step out into the unknown silence of freedom, the bronze diploma, and the final rest. The morning of the last day is unlike any other. The trumpet sounds the wake-up call, but for the first time in 25 years, it is not a command. It is merely a sound. The soldier wakes, but he does not reach for his armor. He does not reach for the heavy belt. Those belong to the emperor. Today, he belongs to himself. He stands in the Principia for the final ceremony. He is not alone. A handful of other gray-bearded men stand with him. They are the survivors of their intake class. The boys who walked through the dust decades ago are now the elders. The legate reads the names. It is formal, legalistic, and dry. Honorable discharge, he says. Missio honesta. The soldier steps forward. He receives the object that validates his entire adult life. It is not a medal. It is a document. The diploma. 2 small rectangular bronze plates bound together with wire and sealed. He holds them in his hands. They are heavy, cold, and permanent. Inscribed on the metal is his name, his unit, and the decree of the emperor granting him the rights of a veteran. It grants him citizenship for his children. It grants him the right to marry legally. It is the proof that he exists. Then comes the premia, the reward, 3,000 denarii, or perhaps a plot of land in a veteran colony. It is a fortune. It is more money than his father ever saw. It is the price of his youth, paid back in silver and soil. He takes the heavy bag. It pulls at his shoulder, a different kind of weight than the shield, but a burden he carries gladly. He walks back to the barracks to collect his few personal things. The wool socks from home, now darned a dozen times. The knife he bought in a market in Gaul. The small statue of a god he kept in a niche by his bunk. He leaves the lorica. He leaves the gladius. He leaves the pilum. They stay with the legion. They will be cleaned, oiled, and given to a new recruit, a new boy with soft hands and wide eyes who is walking up the road right now. The cycle continues. The soldier walks to the main gate, the Porta Praetoria. The sentries nod to him as he passes. They show him respect. He is an emeritus. He has done what they are still trying to do. He has survived. He steps across the threshold. The shadow of the gatehouse falls over him one last time. Then he steps out into the sunlight. The road stretches out before him, the same straight paved road. But the rhythm is broken. He does not have to march. He can walk. He can stop. He can look at a flower. He can sit by the side of the road and watch the clouds. Left. Right. His feet still remember the cadence, but his heart is slowing down. He travels to his new home, a small farm, perhaps given to him by the state. It is quiet here. There are no shouting centurions. There is no clatter of armor. There is only the wind in the olive trees and the bleating of a few sheep. He hangs his bronze diploma on the wall of his cottage. It shines in the afternoon sun. He sits on a wooden bench outside his door. He looks at his hands. They are rough, scarred, powerful hands. Hands that built forts, hands that killed, hands that polished iron. Now, They will hold a cup of wine. Now, they will hold the handle of a pruning hook. The sun begins to set. The sky turns a deep, velvety blue. In the distance, faintly, he thinks he hears a trumpet, but it is far away. It is someone else's problem. He closes his eyes. The silence of the countryside wraps around him. It is a deep, soft blanket. The tension that he has carried in his shoulders for 25 years finally, slowly, releases. He breathes in the smell of the earth, not the earth of a ditch, but the earth of his own land. The soldier is tired. The march is over. The armor is off. The watch is done. He leans his head back against the wall of his home. The stars come out, the same stars he watched from the ramparts, but now they are peaceful. They are just lights in the sky, watching over a sleeping world. Good night, soldier. You have earned your rest. And good night to you, listening in the dark. The history is written. The book is closed. Let the quiet settle in. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Good night. If this journey through the duller side of history helped you unwind and maybe even drift off, please let me know. First, hit that like button if you enjoyed this historical lullaby. Second, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future installments of history too boring to keep you awake. Finally, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below about which historical topic you find so mundane. It deserves to be our next sleepy video. Your suggestions will shape our journey into the world's most delightfully dull past.